Let me straight away start my talk. I will share my screen first. Yeah, I think my screen is visible to all, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
sir.
Yes. So today I will be discussing about promises and nuances of Consumer Protection Act 2019. As we all know, recently Consumer Protection Act 2019 is came into effect and it is operational now. So the existing 1986 Consumer Protection Act is repealed hereby. So now onwards we have, or this month onwards we have 2019 Consumer Protection Act for the protection of consumers. So I will briefly discuss about some of the key issues in this particular area, new legislation. Yeah. So as we all know, we are all consumers, right? We are our consumer characteristics starts from the womb, and we will continue as a consumer to our grave, because we are taking services, we are purchasing products in all our life. So we are always a consumer, and nobody is an exception. Everybody is a consumer. So because of that, we need certain type of protection. So when we are talking about consumer protection, it revolves around certain aspects like value for the money. Whatever money we are paying, we should get a return which is equivalent to our value of the money. And second thing is, we should be aware of the content of the product. That is information about the product. As a consumer, we were supposed to know it. Thirdly, whatever products we are purchasing, it should be safe for us. It should not be dangerous to our physical or mental health. Then lastly, whenever there is a violation of our rights, we need remedies. For that, we need redressal forums or appropriate mechanisms. And obviously remedies. So these are the areas where consumer protection revolves around. Now, as an introduction, I want to make it clear who is a consumer. I think some of you might have not studied this consumer law subject. So first I'll let you know in the statutorily who is a consumer in India. Consumer in India, or legally, consumer means any person who buys any product or avails or hires any service. So when a person is purchasing a product or when a person is availing a service, we can call him as a consumer. But there are certain conditions. That purchase should not be for resale. So when a person purchasing something for resale, he will not be treated as consumer. Then secondly, that purchase is not for commercial purpose. If you are purchasing for a commercial activity, then you will not be treated as a consumer. Or availing a service for commercial purpose. If you are availing a service for commercial purpose, you will not be treated as a consumer. Then if you are getting that product free of cost, or if you are availing a service free of cost, then also you will not be treated as a consumer. Then lastly, if you are availing a service which is rendered under a contract of personal service, that is, there are two types of contracts. One is contract for personal service and another is contract of personal service. In contract of personal service, the master and servant having a good relationship, master having full control over the servant. So whatever servant will be delivered to the master, master have no authority to complain against the servant. But when it comes to contract of personal service, the servant is performing his task by his own idea. There is no hire and fire relationship between master and servant. So this is what is mean by consumer. So any person who buys any goods or avails a service can be considered as a service. But if he falls under any of this set category, then he will not be treated as a consumer. Now, for this consumer, in India, we have 7 important rights. So every consumer in India who comes under the category of my definition is eligible to claim 7 important rights, like right to safety, right to information, right to choice, right to be heard, right to seek redressal, right to consumer education. Now this terminology, consumer education, is changed. I will tell you what was happened in the new act. There is a slight change in the nomenclature. But these are the basic consumer rights available in India as of now. Okay. Now, for the protection of consumers, as of now, the laws in India providing protection to a consumer in different aspects, like defect in goods. Whenever there is a defect in goods, a consumer will get remedy. Whenever there is a deficiency in service, consumer have protection. Whenever there is a deception in trade practice, like unfair trade practice or restrictive trade practice, consumer has remedy. Then consumer has a remedy against adulteration of foods and drugs. Then consumer having a remedy against weights and measures. Whenever there is an issue with false weights and measures, consumer has a remedy. Likewise, whenever there is a false and misleading advertisements, again consumer having remedy. Then finally, quality and standards. If the product or service goes below a prescribed standard, then also consumer has a remedy. So these are the areas where consumer is getting protection as of now from different laws of India. Now, if you quickly look into the legal framework in India for the protection of consumers, you have a number of legislations. Some general legislations are there, some specific legislations are there. General legislations includes Indian Penal Code, Competition Act, Essential Commodities Act, Contract Act, Sale of Goods Act, Drugs and Cosmetics Act, then various quality marks like ISA, Bureau of Indian Standards Act, Legal Metrology Act, like that number of legislations are there. But when it comes to specific law, we have certain specific law exclusively for the protection of consumers, like Agricultural Produce and Grading Marketing Act, Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisements Act, Bureau of Indian Standards Act, Legal Metrology Act, Food Safety and Standards Act, Consumer Protection Act 86, that is replaced by new Consumer Protection Act 2019. So these are the legal framework dealing with consumer protection in India. In this, I will be focusing only on Consumer Protection Act 2019. That is for our discussion today. Now, starting from 2019 Consumer Protection Act. This act replaced Consumer Protection Act 1986. The new bill received presidential assent on 9th August 2019 and it officially came into force from 20th July 2019. Okay, 20th July 2019 onwards, this act came into force. And if you see the act, the entire act is divided into 7 chapters and it consists of total 107 sections. And the aim of the act is very simple: to save the rights of consumers by establishing authorities for timely and effectively administration and settlement of consumers' dispute. So this is the sole objective of the Consumer Protection Act 2019, that is to protect the rights of consumers. For the purpose of that, they are establishing certain authorities. And that authorities will settle the rights of consumer in a timely and cost-effective manner. So that is what is the object of Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now, if you see the major features of Consumer Protection Act 2019, I have identified this many important features in this new legislation. First of all, it has introduced certain new definitions which are not there in the old or existing legislation. Secondly, it has widened the scope of existing definitions. Then thirdly, it has included, we all know one of the major reasons for the introduction of 2019 Act is the e-commerce. And this e-commerce was not covered in the 1986 Act clearly. So this Act has included provisions relating to e-commerce. The next important feature is it has established a new authority. Under the 2019 Act, you can see a new authority named Central Consumer Protection Authority. Then it has modified the existing consumer dispute redressal forums. Then next is enhancement of pecuniary jurisdiction. There is a change in pecuniary jurisdiction in the new act. Then most important introduction or innovation in the new legislation is use of ADR mechanisms for the settlement of consumer disputes. Like if you see, there is a special chapter and special procedures provided for settling consumer dispute using mediation. That is very significant feature of 2019 Consumer Protection Act. Another important significant feature or new innovation is or new introduction is product liability. Previously, in our Consumer Protection Act 1986, there is no provision for product liability and service liability. Now there is a new provisions for product liability, and the law has introduced penal punishments like fines as well as imprisonment for that. Then another interesting change in this new legislation is changes in the concept of unfair trade practice. There is a very large definition for unfair trade practice. Now the new act has given a new definition for the unfair trade practice. Then another most significant feature of this legislation is e-filing. Now, if you see previously, whenever a person wants to file, they have to submit a hard copy of the document. But now the new 2019 legislation allows consumers to file their complaint through electronic means. Even serving of notice also, or submission of notice to the forums also, is regulated through or can be done through electronic means. So these are the striking features of Consumer Protection Act 2019. And I will discuss one by one how it is and what it is. Now, starting from the first feature, that is definitions. The Act has introduced number of new definitions, which are all very significant for the protection of consumers' interest. First important definition is advertisement. There are so many definitions they introduced. I will not discuss each and everything, but I had selected very important definitions. Now, first and foremost important definition introduced by this 2019 Consumer Protection Act is advertisement. We all know how advertisements are influencing the consumers, how it is influencing the mind of common man, and how these advertisements are one way or other way helping sellers and manufacturers to exploit us. So previously we have a provision under the Consumer Protection Act under unfair trade practice to regulate advertisement. But the Act was silent about what amounts to advertisement. When an advertisement can be treated as somebody has
participants are requested to mute their microphones.
Okay, I will continue. So the most important striking definition is advertisement. So earlier there is a provision in the unfair trade practice, but there were no clarity regarding what is advertisement and when that advertisement can be treated as false and misleading. Now, if you see the new legislation, there is a very clear definition for advertisement. And you can see from this slide, any means, whenever there is an advertisement pronounced in any visible means, either through audio or through any display. If it is through sound, smoke, gas, print, electronic, internet, website, it includes notice, circular, label, wrapper, invoice, everything. So any sort of advertisement or any sort of display or giving information about a product will be covered under the term advertisement. That is very important thing. Secondly, the Act has very clearly given a definition for misleading advertisements. When these advertisements can be treated as misleading or when it will amount to a false advertisement. And you can see from this slide very clearly what are the area when an advertisement can be considered as false. When it falsely describes about the product or service, when it gives a false guarantee or likely to mislead the consumers about the quality, quantity, etc. of the product or service, when it conveys either express or implied representation, would constitute an unfair trade practice. Then lastly, when deliberately conceals important information about the product. This is very important, you have to remember, because earlier the question was there whether concealment of a fact in an advertisement can be treated as false or misleading advertisement. Now the definition is very clear. It says when you are advertising something, if you are concealing an important information, then that will also be treated as a misleading advertisement. So this is the most important definition. Then next most important thing in this Consumer Protection Act is it has defined what are the consumer rights of an individual. Though I said in the beginning, there are 7 consumer rights for a consumer. Under the 86 Act, there is no specific reference about consumer protection, consumers' rights. Now, the Act has clearly defined what are the consumer rights or what are the rights available to a consumer. Like there are 7 rights, like right against hazardous property, right to information, right to accessibility, right to be heard, right to seek redressal, and right to consumer awareness. Now, when I am saying right to consumer awareness, this was actually mentioned as consumer education earlier. the previous legislation, this consumer awareness was considered as consumer education. So both are same only, but they are using the term consumer awareness. So these are the consumer rights as per the new Consumer Protection Act, and it is very clearly and explicitly mentioned in the act itself. That is another significant feature. Then comes complaint. This is another interesting thing. Earlier, we don't have a mechanism for filing a case against product liability. Now they have introduced a new mechanism. New mechanism under the act. I will discuss with you what do you mean by product liability subsequently. But if you are finding any problem or any fault with the product, if it comes under product liability, then you can file it as a complaint, or you can file a complaint based on product liability also. That is also added in the definition. Then the most important addition is in the consumer, the term consumer itself. If you see, under section 2 clause 7 of the new legislation defines who is a consumer. In that, explanation B added a new thing. That is, consumer includes any person who buys goods or hires or avails any service through offline or online transaction, through electronic means or by tele-shopping, direct selling or multi-level marketing. That means all the persons who are availing service or purchasing products through online media will be considered as a consumer. It's a very significant addition given to this consumer definition itself. Then another important point you have to remember here is deficiency. The term deficiency given a wider canvas here now. If you see the new legislation, it has added two important clauses in the term deficiency when compared to the existing definition. It says any act of negligence or omission or commission by such person which causes loss or injury to the consumer. Earlier, we have a definition for deficiency, but that particular deficiency will not cover any negligent act and resulting injury to the consumer. That was talking about only deficiency on the part of the service. But here on the part of service provider, if there is any negligency, thereby if the consumer suffers an injury or harm, that will be considered as a deficiency in service. Another important addition is deliberate withholding of relevant information. Earlier, you can file a complaint under the heading deficiency in service only if that service having any problem. But if he deliberately withdraws any information, then that will not be, or that would not be counted as a deficiency. But the new legislation widened the scope of the terminology deficiency, thereby added deliberate withholding of relevant information as a part of deficiency in service. This is another significant feature. Then comes e-commerce. As this is considered as one of the very important highlight of the Consumer Protection Act 2019, because now almost all the persons or all the consumers one way or other way dealing with e-commerce activities or e-transactions, either through telephone or through smartphone or iPad or computer or in whatever means. So that e-commerce is very specifically included in the act. That is another significant feature. Then the next important feature is inclusion of the term food article. Now you all know there is a legislation known as Food Safety and Standards Act, which are exclusively dealing with the activities of food related matters. Now, after the introduction of this 2006 legislation, there was a question whether consumer goods or goods under Consumer Protection Act would cover food articles or not. That issue is finally settled by this new definition. This new act provides a definition which is inclusive of all food items which are defined under Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. So thereby now all the food articles will also be treated as a product under Consumer Protection Act. Then the next important definition which is added in this new legislation is product liability. Now, see the definition. It's very simple, but this is very significant also in one way. That is, the definition says like this: the responsibility of a product manufacturer or product seller of any product or service to compensate for any harm caused to a consumer by defective product manufactured, salt or deficiency in service relating thereto. Now, what is the significance of this definition? I will give you a simple example. Suppose I am purchasing this particular mobile from the seller. Now, there is a manufacturer for this mobile as well as there is a seller for this mobile. Now, when I am operating this mobile, if there is a defect in this product, definitely I can have a remedy under Consumer Protection Act, no doubt. But when I am using this mobile explodes. Thereby, I am suffering an injury. Under which law I can claim remedy? As of now, before the introduction of 2019, getting a remedy for such type of harm caused while using this product, there is no such effective remedy. But this introduction of product liability gives rise to or provides an option to a consumer to approach consumer forums or consumer commission for claiming remedies under the heading product liability. Or when I am using a service also, same thing can happen. If there is a deficiency in the service, I can have a remedy. But while using the service, if I suffer an injury or a harm, there is no question of damages. There is no appropriate forums for that. But now the new legislation provides an option for me. So that is that is another significant feature of new Consumer Protection Act, that is introduction of product liability. And though the terminology is used to product liability, this is applicable to services also. Okay. Then another important definition is harm. This here in the previous thing where product liability, I said when a consumer suffers any harm, then he has a remedy under the heading product liability. Now, obviously, we will have a doubt what will constitute harm. So for that, the Act provides a definition for harm. This is the definition under section 2 clause 22. Whenever there is a question of product liability, what can be a harm under that heading? It says any damage to the property. Take the case, I said my mobile. When I am using this mobile, if this mobile is defective, definitely I can say it is a defect in the product. But when I am using this mobile, it exploding, thereby it's damaging my laptop. Who will compensate that? That is covered under this product liability, now under the heading harm. So when I am using my bike, I may suffer some injury. That is also personal injury. Or sometimes because of the manufacturing defect of a product, I may suffer an illness. I may suffer, sometimes it may cause death also. That will also be considered as harm. Then mental agony, emotional distress because of that personal injury. Any loss of consortium, like when I am using this, it may cause damage to my near relatives. It may cause injury to my near relatives. That also be covered under Consumer Protection Act. Previous Consumer Protection Act will not give an option for any such things. But it will not amount to, one thing also you have to remember when I am saying harm, if I am using this product in a wrong manner or in violation of the breach of warranty or conditions of warranty, then I will not be able to claim any remedy. So I should use this product in the normal way everyone uses. And when I am using, if I suffer an injury, I can definitely claim a remedy under the heading product liability because this product has caused harm to me. Clear? So that is what product liability. Now, unfair contracts. This is another new addition given under the Consumer Protection Act. Earlier, when there is a deficiency in the service or when there is a defect in the product, you have a remedy. But when you are going to purchase a product, if the seller imposes an unfair terms and condition, you don't have a remedy against that under the 86 Act. Now, say for example, when I am going to take delivery of 100 kilo of rice from a seller is compelling me, you have to take this particular transport or this particular carriage, then only I will sell this particular product to you. And I have all the liberty to choose any carrier. But because of this seller's condition, I will be bound to follow or I will be bound to use that name carrier. That is an unfair contract to me or unfair term. Sometimes in certain product when we are purchasing, it is mentioned there is no replacement under any circumstance. And even if there is a replacement, we will replace only 10% of the amount, 10% of the total price. Sometimes there will be another condition in case of any dispute, all the dispute will be settled only in Delhi. or in the Delhi Metropolitan Court or something like that. Now, a person is purchasing from Kerala or Assam, and if some dispute arises, we have to travel up to Delhi for filing the case. That is also unfair. So all these issues are considered as unfair terms and conditions. Unfortunately, our existing 1986 Act was not covered this type of issues. So the new legislation is perfectly added this new thing, that is unfair contract, and it has provided a definition also. And another important thing, in recently it is very popular, especially after our Supreme Court decisions in Puttaswamy case, personal information. When we are purchasing certain things, like when we are dealing online transactions, we have to give our personal informations. We have to give our credit card informations. We have to give our bank account information when we are doing online transaction. Now, there is all chance that this seller or manufacturer may transfer our personal details to other persons. So the new legislation incorporates a new important thing, that is sharing of our personal information is an unfair trade practice. Suppose what I should purchase, what I am purchasing, that is my choice. And after I make a purchase, and the seller is advertising everywhere, or seller is saying to everyone, see, this person has purchased this product, this person has purchased this product, that will adversely affect my privacy. So any delivery or any transmission of information, personal information, without the consent of the consumer will be treated as unfair trade practice. Very effective provision in this present technology driven market, right? Then the other important addition in the unfair trade practice is refusal to take back defective products. You know very well, when you are purchasing a product, when you reach your home after 2 days or 3 days, you will find a defect in that. It may be a manufacturing defect. And when you call the seller or manufacturer, he will say, once it is sold, it is sold. There is no cost of retake, or we will not return or replace. Now, if any seller or manufacturer is refused to return, take it back a defective product, then, or if they refuses to return the price of the product, that will also be treated as an unfair trade practice. So these are the very important new definitions added in the Consumer Protection Act 2019. I hope that is clear for everyone, right? And we can discuss in detail if you have any doubts in the last part. Now, I'll move on to the next important significant feature of our new Consumer Protection Act. That is, it has established a new authority. That is Central Consumer Protection Authority. We have Central Consumer Protection Councils. That is still there, but this is a new agency adopted or established under this act. That is Central Consumer Protection Authority. Now, for what purpose this is established? The purpose is provided under Section 10. The purpose is to regulate matters relating to violation of rights of consumers, unfair trade practices, and false or misleading advertisements. So the purpose of this CCPA is to regulate violation of consumer rights, unfair trade practice, and misleading or false advertisement when it is a matter of class of consumers. That is, when a group of consumers' rights are violated, when a group of consumers is affected due to unfair trade practice, or when a group of consumers are affected with false or misleading advertisements, then Central Consumer Protection Authority will come into picture. That is the most important part of this new authority. So it is dealing with class actions. So when there are so many occasions, number of consumers may suffer from the act of the seller or manufacturer. Now, in that situation, instead of filing individual cases and flooding the litigation, what they can do is they can simply file a representative petition to this particular authority, and this authority will take into account that particular issue. Very good introduction in the new legislation. And in this authority consists of chief commissioner, additional commissioners, etc., and appointed by the central government. And it will work under, it is having a head office in the New Delhi. And it contains directors, additional directors, joint directors, deputy directors, and assistant directors. For what purpose? For investigation. So whenever a consumer is filing a complaint, generally consumer is bound to provide or produce evidence before the forum. Now here, consumers are not supposed to provide evidence. There is a wing exclusively for investigation working under this authority. That is what investigation wing, where There are directors, additional directors, joint directors, deputy directors, and assistant directors. So whenever there is a class consumer complaint, there is a mechanism for investigation. So to an extent, consumer will be relieved from submitting evidence. So that is a good addition. So Consumer Protection Authority as well as Consumer Protection Authority's investigation wing, providing remedies for class action. That's a new addition. Then powers of Consumer Protection Authority. This is also another important introduction. What powers this authority have? This authority can investigate either suo motu or on a complaint or on the basis of a reference from the government. So any complaint they can investigate. Then they can file complaints before the commissions, state commission, district commission, and national commission. So this authority can also file a case. So authority can also be a complainant. That is the important part. Then they can intervene in any proceedings before the commissions with respect to unfair trade practice. So they can also take part in the trial, or they can also take part in the proceedings before the commissions. Then they can review the existing laws and related matters relating to consumer rights. They can recommend and for the adoption of international practices in India. And they can also take appropriate measures for spreading awareness or promotion of awareness among consumers about their rights. So these are the powers of Consumer Protection Authority. This is a very important introduction in the new legislation. Then these are other functions of the Consumer Protection Authority, like encouraging NGOs. They can, this is another important function, important thing, that is mandate the use of unique and universal goods identifiers. Whenever a foreign goods comes into India, whether that product is original or not, this Consumer Protection Authority can insist the manufacturers and the distributors to use a product or good identifier, so that the consumer can ensure that what they are getting is a correct product or a true original product, not a fake product. Then they can issue safety notices. Whenever this Consumer Protection Authority identifies certain things are hazardous to human being or it causes some physical danger to human being, then they can issue how to handle with that product. What are the things to be taken into account while selling that product or while providing that service? That also can be done by the Consumer Protection Authority. Then they can advise the government and they can issue necessary guidelines for preventing unfair trade practice. So these are the very important functions of our Consumer Protection Authority. This is a very good addition. Then again, this also should be very carefully, you have to understand what orders this Consumer Protection Authority can issue. Section 20 and 21 provides that. They can ask the manufacturers and sellers to recall the goods. So whenever this Consumer Protection Authority finds any problem in the goods, which is affecting a large number of consumers' interest, then they can direct the manufacturers and sellers to recall the goods. Likewise, they can ask the manufacturer and sellers to reimburse the product, reimburse the price. Then they can direct the manufacturer or sellers to discontinue with such unfair and restrictive trade practices. Likewise, they can direct discontinuance of misleading and false advertisements. Then another new innovation in the Act. This also you have to remember, and this is having this will become very controversial also after some time. I'm sure it will become very controversial in the coming future. That is, this authority can impose penalty to manufacturer, traders, advertiser, publisher, as well as endorsers. Now, who is this endorser? Endorser here means the famous personalities coming in the advertisement. When an actor or actress saying some good thing about a product, that is an endorsement. And subsequently, believing that or seeing their face, we may purchase, because we will be get influenced by the speech made by the film heroine or a film actress or sports person. Now, after purchasing it, if we have identified that that product is not of that quality, this authority can take action against that particular actress or actor or sports person. Very important thing and very much needed thing, but it become very controversial also, I'm sure. In near future, it will become very controversial. What they can do is, they can impose a penalty up to 10 lakhs rupees to this actor. And if the authority wants, they can impose imprisonment also to the actor or actress concerned. So it will become very complicated and very, very controversial, I am sure. Let us see how it is going to happen. Now, whatever actions or whatever orders this Consumer Protection Authority will issue, consumer or the other party having an option to file an appeal before the National Commission. Straight away, from this authority, anybody can file an appeal to National Commission within 30 days. That is also provided. Now, another major significant feature of our Consumer Protection Act 2019 is District Commission. Now, when I am saying the terminology District Commission, remember earlier we have district forums, Consumer Dispute Redressal Forums at district. Now, that forum or redressal forum, that terminology is given away. Now, instead of redressal forums, this act uniformly uses District Commission. So they are introducing a new terminology, District Commission or Commission. That is a change. And another change is there is some slight changes in the membership of the District Commission. Earlier we have 2 members. Now it is not less than 2 and not more than such number of members. That's a new change. And another important change here is earlier pecuniary jurisdiction of District Commission or the previous district forum was up to 20 lakhs. Now it is increased up to 1 crore. So up to 1 crore claim, a consumer can directly file to the nearby district forum. That is a very important point. Then another significant thing is minimum amount of compensation. Earlier, there were no specification that what should be the minimum amount of compensation which a consumer forum should be provided to a consumer. But now the act says whenever consumer forum grants a compensation, it should not be less than 25% of the value of the product. Whatever product you have purchased, whatever be your loss, but still the compensation should not be less than 25% of the product. That means there's a minimum amount of compensation was introduced in the act. Now, any person having any dispute or grievance with the judgment given by order given by the District Commission, people can file an appeal before the State Commission within 45 days. Earlier the period was 30 days. Now it is increased up to 45 days. Yeah.
Participants?
So,
yes, sir. You can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So another important significant feature, mediation. I said the use of ADR mechanism. Among ADR mechanism, mediation is specifically used under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now, whenever a person filing a complaint before the District Commission, on the first reading itself, if the District Commission feels that this matter can be settled through mediation, they can ask the parties to submit this to mediation. And the procedure for mediation is provided in the Chapter 5 of the Act, provides very detailed procedure. And for mediation process, every state government has to establish consumer mediation cell and they have to empanel mediators. So whenever there is a case, complaint filed before the District Commission, the parties are willing to take up this matter to mediation. Then the Consumer Commission will direct the parties to approach concerned mediation. And thereby they can settle the dispute. And after settling the dispute, they can come back to District Commission. And District Commission will issue the concerned order based on the mediation settlement. So the use of mediation is very effective. You know why? Because when 1986 Consumer Protection Act was enacted, one of the objective was to provide speedy remedy. But even though it is speedy remedy, they have established a new mechanism for settling the consumer dispute. It takes minimum 3 to 4 years. Though the Act provides 3 months and 5 months time period for disposal of the complaint, but still it takes lot many time. So consumers are reluctant to approach the consumer forum because of the long pending delay. And this mediation is an answer for that or a solution for that. Using mediation, consumer can settle their dispute within 3 or 4 days or 5 days. So mediation is very effective. I am sure in recent future, this mediation will be widely used by consumers and the other parties for settling their consumer disputes. Then, State Commission. Another significant feature is State Commission. Now, earlier, State Commission consists of 4 members. Now, it is not less than 4 members, and any number of members can be added. But such other numbers can
Hello.
be included. So, membership wise, there's a change. And again, there's a change with respect to pecuniary jurisdiction. Earlier, State Commission having jurisdiction up to 1 crore. Now, that up to 1 crore is increased from 1 crore to 10 crore. So there is a change in pecuniary jurisdiction part of the Consumer Commission. Then another is subject matter jurisdiction, unfair contracts. I said in the beginning, there's a new introduction of unfair contracts. Now, Consumer Protection Commissions, that is, State Commission can take up any complaint related to unfair contracts if the claim is up to 10 crores. That is a new addition. But significantly, you have to remember, with respect to unfair contract, a consumer cannot approach district forum, district commission. They can approach only to consumer forum, the Consumer State Commission. And if the value is more than 10 crore, they need to go to the state national commission. Now, another significant addition here is place of filing. Earlier, whenever there is a dispute, consumer can approach the place where cause of action arised, the concerned district forum where cause of action arise, the place, or where the defendant is residing or the opposite party is residing. Now there is a significant addition in that, in the new legislation. The new legislation says complainant can file a case where he resides or personally works for gain. Now take a very simple example. Suppose I am traveling from Kochi to Delhi. In on way, when I am traveling in the train, I may purchase a product when I am reaching Tamil Nadu. And when I will reach Andhra Pradesh or Vijayawada, I may face some issue there. Now, where I should file the case? And I may be working in Delhi. Now, earlier, I was not supposed to file this case in the Delhi court, where I personally works for gain. Now, the new legislation allows me to file the complaint before the district forum where I am working or where I am residing, where my original house is. That's a very significant advancement made in this new legislation. Then, product liability. Another significant feature of this 2019 legislation is introduction of product liability. I said, whenever I am purchasing a product, if the product is defective, I have a remedy under Consumer Protection Act. Now, due to the operation of the product, if I will suffer any damage or injury, I will not get any remedy under Consumer Protection Act, under defect, because that is not connected with the defect of the product. That may be their argument. Now, to avoid that, there is a specific liability clause, product liability. So, any injury or harm which I suffer due to a product while using a product, that will also be covered under Consumer Protection Act. And for that, we have a product liability clause. Now, likewise, product service liability is also added. Though the terminology service liability they are not using, but under section 85, any injury or any damage I suffer while availing or while using a service, I have a remedy under this particular section, that is section 85, service liability. Those are section title is different. Now, interestingly, liability of product sellers. This liability is not only with the manufacturer, this liability is with sellers also. So, immediate seller is also liable. You all know very well the age-old case Donoghue versus Stevenson in the tort law. So, same thing is applicable now, and that is made as a statutory principle as of now. Then, other important features. If you see other significant features of the Consumer Protection Act 2019 is filing of complaints in electronic mode. So we can file any complaint in electronic means. That is a very significant thing. Now by using mobile, instead of traveling up to the district commission, simply by using mobile, I can do I can file the complaint. Another interesting thing, service of notice. Whenever I need to serve the notice to my other opposite party, or I need to submit a document before the court, before the commission, I can do it through electronic means. That is also provided. Then another most important addition in this legislation is assistance of experts. Earlier, there were no specific provision provided for taking assistance. by state commission and national commission. Whenever state commission and national commission is deciding a matter, if the matter is very complex, they can take the help of significant experts or related experts. There is a specific provision for that. Then, criminal punishment, that is another important addition in the Act. For false and misleading advertisements, earlier we have only fine. Now we have criminal punishments like imprisonment up to 2 years. That is a very significant advancement. Then fine up to 10 lakhs. So that is very important. Then criminal punishment for dealing with adulterant. So if any seller sells anything connected with adulterated substance or an adulterant, then that will be considered as a criminal offense under the Act. Section 90 is there in the new Act. Likewise, sale of spurious goods. If anybody sells any spurious goods, then that will be considered as a criminal offense under the Act, Section 91. Then Section 94, measures to prevent unfair trade practices in e-commerce, direct selling and everything. This is very important. This Section 94 empowers the government to take measures for preventing unfair trade practices in e-commerce. And if you see in 2019 Act, along with the 2019 Act, in 2020, central government has formulated a rules titled Consumer Protection E-Commerce Rules 2020. Now, if you go through these rules, you can see very excellent framework for preventing unfair trade practice in e-commerce. Now, if you read the provisions, we will be very happy to see that, because it provides how to deal with an e-commerce. What are the steps to be taken into account? What are the things to be taken into account? Very interesting thing. And please go through this Consumer Protection E-Commerce Rules 2020. And that is something which is new. And though in our country, so many people are using e-commerce and everything, or e-transaction, there is no such effective regulation. But this act as a base regulation for dealing with e-commerce transactions. So it is very important. And that was happened because of Section 94 of this new legislation. Then a small change in this act is age limit of the Consumer Protection Commission members is increased. Especially in the State Commission, the age limit is 40. Now, a person having 35 years of age cannot become a member of the State Commission. Earlier it was 35 years plus. Now it is 40 plus. That is a change. And another important change, that is fees. If you are filing a case before the Consumer Forum, if your claim is up to 5 lakhs, there is no fees. Very important thing. Earlier, one of the very deterring fact for filing a complaint is when your claim is very small, people are reluctant to go to the court. And when my claim is very small, I will not go to the court. I will give you a simple example of that. I think you may be knowing that we all are purchasing coffee powder in pouch, 1 rupee, 2 rupee packet. Okay, very small packet we will purchase. Take the case of Nescafe. It's only an example, okay? Nescafe. Nescafe is selling a pouch having 2 rupee or 1 rupee price, containing 10 grams of coffee powder. Now, in that 10 grams of coffee powder, we are getting by 1 rupee. And I am purchasing it, I am using it. Now, there is an organization, a consumer spirited or consumer interested voluntary organization. This voluntary organization simply analyzed this packet. And they have identified this Nescafe 1 rupee pouch, instead of 10 gram, it contains only 8 grams. That is 2 gram less. Now they are telling to everyone, see, this company is selling less than 2 gram, or they are not selling the full gram. Whether as an individual consumer, we will approach the Consumer Forum or Consumer Commission or any court. Nobody will do that. Because if you want to approach, how much compensation you will get? Very negligible amount. But you have to pay a large amount in the way of court fees, as well as our day-to-day travel expenses and advocate's expense, right? So nobody will file. Now, if nobody will file a case against this 2 gram short, what will happen? It will be an encouragement to the Nescafe company. Okay. Now, what would be the benefit of Nescafe company for selling this less than 2 gram here? Simply assume a calculation like this. They are selling every year or every month. They are selling crores of packet all over India. Crores. They are selling all over India. This particular product, right? Now, if it is 100 packet or 1000 packets, by reducing it into 10 to 8 grams, they are saving 2 grams. How much kilo they may be saving in a month when they are selling crores of packets? You just assume how much kilo they may be saving and multiply that kilo with per kilo rate by reducing 10 to 8, but that is by saving the 2 gram, this company is getting a large sum of money in a month. But as an individual consumer is concerned, his loss is very negligible. But the manufacturer is concerned, he is getting large profit. And if he continues this for a period of 1 year or 2 years, how much crore he may be getting from that? See, this is the problem. When the claim is very less, we will not act. We will not approach the forum. And that will be an encouragement to the manufacturer. Thereby, they will get lot of money. So to avoid that, the new Consumer Protection Act, through its rules, very clearly says there is no court fees for filing a case if your claim is less than 5 lakhs. Very important thing. Then even if your claim goes more than 5 lakhs, up to 10 lakhs, you have to pay only 200 rupees as the court fees. Very meager amount. Then, even if your claim is more than 10 to 20 lakhs, up in between 10 to 20 lakhs, still you are supposed to pay only 400 rupees as the court fees. Very significant innovation made in this act. Clear? Then, so these are the various important features, significant features I could identify in the new Consumer Protection Act 2019. Like any other thing, you don't have anything which is foolproof. So I have certain criticisms, or I have found out certain imperfections in our 2019 legislation. So I'll just highlight for you what are the various imperfections of 2019 Act. Though I agree with the fact this act is very significant, it has provided a lot many new things, no doubt in that, but still there are certain imperfections. Like first imperfection is conflict with other laws. If you see 1986 Consumer Protection Act, Section 3 of the Consumer Protection Act 1986 very clearly says this act is not in derogation with any other existing law. It is in addition to the existing law. That is, whenever there is some issue, Consumer Protection Act 86 as well as other legislations will go hand in hand. But when it comes to new legislation, that particular, there is always a doubt when there is a special law in picture. For that aspect, special law will come into picture. So this act is not in addition to the existing law. It will act as a derogation to the existing law. So general laws will not be made applicable. Act as a barrier, or it will come as a conflict, it will provide conflict with other existing laws. So that point, maybe some judicial decision, subsequently judiciary will clarify that, but as of now, that is a shortcoming of this act. Now, another important shortcoming or imperfection, according to me, is it is not including medical service. You know very well, one of the most important litigation or the large number of litigations was happened under 1986 Act is with respect to inclusion of medical service. And subsequently in IMA versus BP Shanda case, that issue was settled under 1986 Act. But unfortunately, even when we adopted a new definition for service, what prevented the legislatures to include the term medical service under the terminology service? I don't know why or what prevented them, but they have not included. So again, this issue, that is the dimensions of medical service, whether it will come under Consumer Protection Act 2019 is an issue. Because the most important argument here is the legislature never wanted to see, or the legislative intention is against that. That may be the argument. Because if the legislation intention is to incorporate medical service under the Consumer Protection Act, then they might have included. But even in 2019, when they amended the act or when they repealed the act, introduced the new act, they are purposefully avoided medical service. So definitely that will be an argument before the court in near future. So that is another imperfection of this new act. Then another imperfection which I could find is telecom service. Earlier in our legislation, it was used telecommunication service. Now, for the terminology telecommunication service, it is very wider. And even in our TRAI regulations, they are using the terminology telecommunication service. There, all the telecommunication services like telephone, internet, mobile phone, cable television, DTH, everything is covered. But when this new act is introduced, in the term service, they are included only telecom service. And telecom service is very limited compared to telecommunication service. So that become an issue and that will lead to disputes in future because there is an established definition for telecommunication TRAI and that definition will not come under telecom service because both are different. So that is another imperfection. Then educational service. And if you see in 1986 Consumer Protection Act, so many litigations were there with respect to educational service, whether educational services will covered under Consumer Protection Act. If so, what are the specific components of service will be considered as consumer service? Now, interestingly, the new legislation is silent about that. Though they have given an expansive definition for service, they have avoided this educational service from that. Again, that will lead to further litigation. So the legislature could have included this educational service or at least some dimensions of educational service under the term service, but they haven't done it. And because of that, that is another imperfection. Then, interestingly, the Act introduced the term mediation. The Act provides an option to settle consumer disputes through mediation. No doubt, it is a very good, innovative idea. But it is not mentioned anywhere. What should be the time framework to settle this case through mediation? Though we have adopted a mediation rule also in 2020, but we could not I could not find any time limit for that. So unless and until there is a fixed time limit for settlement of issues through mediation, unnecessarily the issues may get dragged. There can be a chance of delay, and that will adversely affect the entire purpose of introducing mediation. So that is another imperfection according to me. Then, orders issued in accordance with mediation is appealable. That is another problem. Now, mediation is a process where parties are settling their dispute. Okay, parties having all the control. And once parties are settling their issue by their negotiation, and they will submit this to district commission or concerned commission. And commission will accordingly issue the order based on the understanding of the parties. Now, even after that, the parties are empowered to file an appeal against that decision. That is the decision taken on the basis of their agreement, their negotiation. After some time, they are empowered to appeal, file an appeal. That means again there will be repetition, there will be litigation. So I think that is a fault of this act. This whenever there is a settlement reached through mediation, that is it's a voluntary process. The parties themselves are settling the issue. Once they settle that, there should not be any appeal for that. If there is an provision for appeal, that will lead to unnecessary litigation. That will adversely affect the entire purpose of the mediation itself. That is another imperfection of the act. Then, complaints about unfair contracts can be filed only before State Commission and National Commission. That is another problem. I don't know why or what is the legislative reason behind not allowing a party to raise a matter to District Commission. Now, if I am living in a place which is so far away from the State Commission or its head office, it will be very difficult for me to go up till there. And there is no reason as such for not allowing District Commission to take up the matter related to unfair contract. They could have ordered it, but unfortunately, the matter related to jurisdiction of unfair contract is given directly to State Commission. It is their original jurisdiction. Right from 1 rupee claim to 10 crore rupee claim, we have to agitate before State Commission. That is something which not proper for the State Commission also, because State Commission is going to deal with an issue wherein the claim is only 100 rupee or 500 rupee. That is unnecessary thing. They could avoid this by providing that opportunity to District Commission. But unfortunately, this act is like this. Then the last imperfection, according to me, is service liability. So they have innovatively introduced the concept of product liability. It is very good, no doubt in that. Yeah, though they have introduced the idea of a product liability, no doubt that is a very good thing. But they have, I don't know, might be, though there is a provision, they are not using the term service liability. The same way in a product, a service can also cause harm to individuals. So they could have introduced the terminology service liability. But any injury suffered due to usage of a service or when availing a service, there is a remedy under the act that is there, but the terminology service liability is missing. That is another imperfection. So I feel if these imperfections are also be taken into account, I can definitely say the 2019 Act is a very good piece of legislation which will provide an effective remedy to consumers, and consumers' rights will be very clearly protected. So I think I have done with my presentations. If you have any doubts or if you want any explanation about anything which I discussed, I will be happy to answer. Thank you very much for your patient listening, and it is open for any discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed and wonderful deliberation. I'm sure everyone is highly benefited by your lecture. May I now invite Mrs. Sharmishta Bhattacharjee, Assistant Coordinator of the session, to facilitate the interactive session. Sharmishta, over to you.
Yes, am I audible, Ashima?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you, Ashima Borwa. I, Sharmishta Bhattacharjee, Assistant Professor, NEF Law College, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Anish V. Pillai, Faculty of Law, Schools of Legal Studies, Cochin, University of Science and Technology, Kerala, for his valuable lecture on Consumer Protection Act and its impacts, which has enriched our knowledge in depth. Now, I would like to carry forward with the interactive session. In today's session, we have two outstation members. So I would request Senior Advocate Dulal Chandra Kat Hazarika, Advocate, Guwahati High Court, Senior Member of Guwahati High Court Bar Association, to put up his question, if any. Sir, please.
One thing is to be clarified by Mr. Pillai, that is a substantial question of law. And what will be the substantial question of law at the time of preferring appeal before the National Commission as well as before the Supreme Court, that has not been clarified by Mr. Pillai, that is to also have to be.
Sir, your voice is
one thing. Yeah, that part has not been clarified in his lecture. So that will be helpful if he has clarified substantial question of law, because that cannot be determined by customer. That can only be determined by the lawyer who prepared the case. So that is important question. I am asking him whether he is, if he will helpful, he will clarify the question.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Yes. Substantial.
Any other question, sir? Any other question?
No, not from my side. There is no question.
Okay.
Any other question? Only substantial question of law that is to be determined for preferring appeal before the National Commission as well as before the Supreme Court.
Yes. So thank you, sir, for this wonderful question. See, whenever we are talking about substantial question of law, the questions are generally the issue of law or question of law before a district commission will be, is there any defect? Is there any deficiency? Is there any unfair trade practice? Is there any adulteration? Is there any pricing of overpricing? Is there any spurious goods? So these are the various questions of law possible before the district commission. Now, when a person aggrieved by the order of this district commission and files an appeal before the state commission, now what would be the substantial question of law? Again, the substantial question of law will be not appreciating the evidence or appreciating the facts. But the question of law they will see whether the district commission has decided the question whether there is defect or not, is correctly or not. Is there any deficiency or not? Whether it is based on the established principles and previous decisions, whether district commission has decided it correctly on the basis of the established facts. That is the question of law which is going to be discussed by the state commission or national commission. Same way they will be appreciating. So whether there is any defect, deficiency, adulteration, overpricing, unfair trade practice, restrictive trade practice, false or misleading advertisements, these are all will be discussed by district commission based on the facts and circumstances and the evidence. And when it comes to appeal, the same thing they will discuss based on the way in which district commission addressed, whether district commission has correctly appreciated that particular issue on the basis of the established facts, based on the law, legal principles, as well as the judicial decisions. That will be the question of law which will be discussed by state commission and national commission. Am I clear, sir?
Yes, 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 sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, sir. We have another learned participant from Amity University, Jaipur, Mr. Sudhanshu Sinha. And his question is this new Consumer Act is really a boost to enhance confidence of any consumer on real ground, on e-commerce with respect to legal rights, or just a trap to enhance online shopping activities by consumer?
No, definitely it is a boost. See, if you see, you take the case of two phases. One is prior to 2019 Act and after that. Prior to 2019 Act, if I am going to purchase a product through online, through any established online website, and if I am getting a defective product, what sort of remedies available to me? Very, very less remedies available to me. I can directly go to the district forum where I can go, where the cause of action arises. And again, there is a dispute where it is my district forum or the district forum where the seller is residing. That is a very disputable thing. There is no clear answer for that. But when it comes to new act, it is clarified. If I am purchasing that product sitting in Kochi, I can file before the Kochi district forum or the concerned district forum, district commission here. That is one thing. So to that extent, I am very confident. That is, if something goes wrong in my purchase, I can approach my nearby district forum. That is one thing. One important thing happened. Then second thing, mediation. Most of the learned or branded companies having a separate voluntary mechanism, mediation mechanism. First level, we can approach them and they will take into account our issues. Now, if that is failed, we can approach the district commission. Then again, district commission officially suggests us or direct us, you go and settle your dispute through mediation. Now, when district commission interferes, the parties will be very happy to deal in mediation. You just remember one thing, if it is a branded company and a news goes out, I have filed a case in Kochi against Amazon, that will tarnish the commercial goodwill of Amazon company. So as an Amazon, as a branded company, they are not supposed to suffer that. They will immediately settle that issue. Okay, so this mediation technique is another important thing. Then, most important thing is class action. Now, when an online shopping is happening, it is not only me. There are large number of consumers or customers. They are dealing with this particular online website. Now, if this online website is doing some malpractice or unfair trade practice, a class complaint can be filed. So, Central Consumer Protection Authority can take action. And that is a all India agency. They will take action and they will impose imprisonment to the concerned persons also. So, in that way, I can tell you very surely, this is actually a very, very boosting. It will boost our confidence, no doubt in that. And it is not a trap. But only problem is, like our existing other laws, the consumer should be aware of this. And consumer should be able to use this. Even after getting awareness, there are consumers, they won't take any action. If consumers are ready to react based on the awareness, definitely it will act as a boost. Otherwise, whatever good thing is there in the act, that will not give any benefit to the consumers. So some consumers should react or use these provisions, then definitely it will provide benefit to the consumers. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
The next question is put forward by Mr. Navindra Kumar Dev, research scholar, Guwahati University. So his question is, why consumer awareness is spreading slowly? Like when we go to buy soft drinks like Coca-Cola, Mazza, etc., the shopkeeper charges 2 to 3 rupees extra. Nobody takes any grave actions, and thus this has become habitual. What can be done in this regard, sir?
Yes, that is a very interesting question. Why consumer awareness is less? I will tell you one interesting thing. See, this is the mobile I am using. Okay. And I am teaching consumer law. I am reading consumer law books. I am reading or seeing all the advertisement. And I read the instruction manual of this mobile. But I don't know exactly what are the features of this mobile. And I am sure 99% of my audience here are not knowing what are the features involved in their mobile. Is it correct I am saying?
Right.
Right. So this is the problem. Now, whether I am a informed consumer, whether I am aware of this product, no, my awareness is very less. So what is the reason for this? The reason is complexity of the product. And there are some students or there are some younger people like children. They know much better than me how to use the features of this mobile, because they are keep on researching on it. Each and every tab they will open and see and know how it is working and what are the functions. But as a person like me or you, we never try to do that. And it is whose fault if we are not having much awareness about this product? One reason is it is the complexity of the thing. Second is we are not that much interested to know whatever features we want. Like I want to call, so I need to know only calling facility. I need to record things, I need to know only recording. That is whatever is my need, I will learn that much. The remaining thing I am not worried to. I'm not interested to look in. That is why there is no consumer awareness. So it is not the fault of government, or it is not the fault of consumer. It is not the fault of anyone. But everybody's fault it is. We are also in a way contributing. So that is what I want to say about this consumer awareness. Now the second thing he asked is charging extra rupees. Now, wherever you are finding charging money more than MRP, that is a violation of your consumer rights. And it is, you can file a consumer complaint. No doubt in that. Consumer complaint. When there is charging of price more than MRP. That MRP itself indicates maximum retail price. Then how the seller can charge more? Definitely that is a case. You have to file a case. But very few will file a case. That is the problem. If somebody will file a case, definitely that practice will be over. Now, when I was in North India, I could find another interesting thing. When I will purchase a soft drink, they will charge 5 rupee extra during summer. Now I will ask why you are charging 5 rupee extra than this MRP. Now their justification is this is for cooling. We are putting it in a refrigerator. That is why we are charging this 5 rupee extra. And if you don't want to pay 5 rupee extra, we will give you normal product. That is which is not cool. Now, whether that is justifiable or not, to an extent that may be justifiable, because when soft drink is sold, there is no mentioning it should be served in a chilled manner, right? So if seller is providing something additional, that is seller is providing in a chilled manner, he may charge that service charge. So that may be accepted. But if he is selling a product without any additional service and charging more than MRP, definitely you can file a case, and you should file a case. No need to suffer that. Yes.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is from the student of NEF Law College. His question is, how has the advent of GST influenced the consumer cases scenario? The question is put by Rubel Nath.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
GST scenario actually adversely affected consumers' interest. Though GST having lot many economic advantages, for consumer is coming, or as far as a consumer is concerned, GST is adversely affecting consumers. And that adverse effect may continue for another few years, but after that it will get over. I will tell you why I said consumer is adversely interested, adversely affected. When I am purchasing a product from a shop, I don't want to name where it is. They will say, do you want a GST bill or not? If I am saying, yes, I want a GST bill, then if the product is 2000 rupees, they will charge 2400 rupees. Why? It is GST. Now, if I am saying, I don't want GST bill, I want a normal bill. Okay, fine. Your price is 2000. Is it good or bad for consumer? That is a problem. Now, if everyone is doing GST billing, I don't have any problem in that because I know 10% or 5% or 2.5% will be GST. I am bound to pay. I will pay. Now, everywhere there is an increase in price with respect to consumers. Earlier, where there is no GST, now that GST is taken from us. It is in addition to the product price. So we are supposed to pay. Now, generally what consumers will do, they will say, we don't want GST bill. Now, when consumer will say GST bill is not required, what is happening? The seller or manufacturer is cheating the government. They are not paying the required tax. So in both way, the introduction of GST is in a way affecting consumers as well as our country. No doubt in that. And this practice will continue for some time. Maybe in future it will get over through the strict enforcement of GST. But still then it will adversely affect. And in consumer point of view, our prices are getting increased or service cost will be increasing because of GST. That is the problem. Yes.
Thank you, sir. The next question is put by Shubham Shakti. His question is, will surrogate advertisement come into the jurisdiction of Central Consumer Promotion Authority?
Yes, definitely. Whether it is surrogate or original one, whatever it is, if it is an advertisement which is misleading in nature or which is false in nature, that will be covered under Consumer Protection Authority. Because consumer advertisements, any sort of advertisement, it is having a wide impact. Not a single consumer will be affected. It is affecting a large number of consumers. So definitely it is a matter comes under the jurisdiction of CCPA. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next question is put by BB Verma. His question is, does the new act in any way has improved the time taken for settlement of claims, especially in view of large-scale long vacancies of members? Does CCPA has any role in this issue?
No, unfortunately, no. See, the issue is somewhat same as that of the 1986 Act. When 1986 Act was enacted, I think only after 1991, it took around 5 years or 6 years to set up consumer enforcement mechanisms, consumer forums. Only after 1991, when a organization called Common Cause, there is an NGO called Common Cause, when they approached Supreme Court, only because of that direction from the Supreme Court, the government has appointed consumer forums. So it took around 5 to 6 years. So I don't know whether the same situation happens now or government will act promptly. As an act, they cannot do anything. They can simply say the government has to establish, government has to set up with this number of members. But when to establish and how to establish, that is the prerogative of the government. Nothing can be done. And if it is getting delayed inordinately, some consumer organization like Common Cause in 1991, when they approach, somebody has to approach the court. So court may direct the government or court may compel the government to establish this organization. But unfortunately, the act can't do anything. It is a fate with every legislation. Everywhere, same situation happens. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now we'd like to take some questions from our faculty members. So I request Mrs. Moushami Sharma to put forward her question.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for providing us an in-depth knowledge about the new Consumer Protection Act 2019, which as a consumer is very important for everyone, as they must be aware about the rights which have been specifically mentioned in the Act. So I have two questions. So my first question, you have already touched this topic. So as the new Consumer Protection Act 2019 permits class action suits, so what are the benefits of class action suits to the consumers?
Okay.
And my second question, since a person cannot be called as a consumer if he purchases and uses the goods for commercial purpose. So if a person purchases a car and subsequently uses the car for commercial purpose, then can he be called as a consumer if any dispute arises?
Yeah. So the first question regarding the class action, what benefit is there? See, take the example of advertisement. When an advertisement, if it is false or misleading, it will affect large number of consumers across the country. If it is published in a large scale media or a popular media, right? Now, if a person purchases that because of that, believing that advertisement, he suffers a damage. Same way, large number of people will also suffer the damage. Now, if there is no class action for that, what will happen? Everybody has to approach individually, they have to approach the forum. That will lead to multiplicity of cases. And the forums will be flooded by that. Like, suppose 10,000 people may be purchasing, 10,000 people may be affected. Now, 10,000 cases will be filed in different parts of the country. And that commissions will be putting their energy for dealing with that case. Instead of that, comparing all these 10,000 consumers, one complaint is dealt by CCPA. That will save the energy. That will give rise to an option to avoid this type of multiplicity of cases. That is the advantage. Second thing, CCPA can impose criminal punishment. When it comes to district commission, they cannot do it. Only Central Consumer Protection Authority, if it is a class action, they can impose criminal punishment. And you know very well, instead of criminal punishment, if there is only civil punishment like compensation or fine, it is very easy for them. Like if I am asking a company to pay 10,000 rupees as compensation, they are very happy to pay. Immediately they will pay. They may pay 15,000. But if the court direct you go and serve in the jail for 1 day, that will be having a huge impact, or it will act as a very important deterrent thing. Okay, these are the benefits of class action complaints. Now, second question regarding, what was the second question? I just missed out. Can you repeat?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes. Remember, commercial purpose. Yes. Now, when a person is purchasing a product for commercial purpose, in the eye of 2019 Consumer Protection Act, he will not be treated as a consumer. He is a customer, no doubt in that. But he cannot be considered as a consumer. The reason is Consumer Protection Act is intending to protect the rights of individual consumer. Individual consumer in the sense, a person who uses the product or a person who purchases a product and allows somebody to use it. So these two categories are involved in that. So when we are saying commercial purpose, it includes a single person to a large company also, large organizations also. So they will not be covered under Consumer Protection Act. Now what option they have? They have an option under other legislations. Contract Act is there, Sale of Goods Act is there. Likewise, number of other legislations are there. That will protect the consumer when he is using that product for resale or he is using that product for commercial activity. Clear? Now, initially I purchased a car and I am not doing any commercial activity. So I am a consumer, no doubt in that. After 1 year, I am using this car as a travel service, like a commercial purpose I am using. Then I will be changed to commercial purpose. So whatever claim arises, till I will convert this product for my commercial activity, I can claim as a consumer. But once I start using this product for a commercial activity, I will not become a consumer. I will lose that character. So I cannot claim any remedy. So then I will have to go for other laws. I cannot take the help of Consumer Protection. And that is because Consumer Protection Act is individualistic in nature. It cannot protect the big persons like manufacturers or sellers. Even manufacturers can be a customer. Sellers can be a customer. That is why this is clear. I think I am clear. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I would request Ms. Jabaratna Thakur to put up her questions.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
So my question to you, sir. So generally, the consumer knowledge about genetically modified products is very low. So
Yes.
it will be of very help if you could throw some light on the existing consumer laws regarding protection of consumers from these genetically modified products, sir.
Yes. That is very interesting. In our 2019 Consumer Protection Act, though genetic modified food items, are something which consumers are frequently deal with nowadays. This act is not specifically talking about that. Okay, almost all the genetically modified organism issue, we will be concentrating on food articles. That is what something which is connected with consumers, directly come into contact with. Now, with respect to this, as of now, there is no legal framework in India dealing with genetically modified foods. But rather, there is a quality mark, or mark is there, organic and inorganic mark. You can Google it, you will get that picture, how that symbol will be. Okay. Now, by looking into that, you can identify whether a food article is organic or inorganic. So it will be distinguished. So it is our choice while selecting from a hypermarket whether to take organic or inorganic thing. That is one method. Now, second way of protection provided under Food Safety and Standards Authority of India Act in 2006. That act. Under this act, every food articles which is being sold in India or distributed in India should have a particular quality and standard, be it organic or inorganic or modified, whatever it is. And based on that, they will give a particular emblem on it. You might be knowing FSSAI emblem. FSSAI, you can see in food product, some FSSAI mark is there. Now, when you are